Hey guys, welcome to Last Movie Standing. I want to talk black and white movies today. I love black and white movies. I think black and white movies are some of the most beautiful films ever made. And I'm not talking about this new trend of modern movies getting the black and white treatment done later because they think it's cool or it's meant for artistic purposes. I like it and I respect it, but it's not the same. And it's not the same. Like, credit where credit's due. I have not seen the new version of Hush that's getting released this week from, or next week from Shout Factory. It comes with the black and white edition. I cannot wait to watch it. But it's not going to be the same. And it's the same with these modern movies that are done like that. Nightmare Alley was one. Mad Max, Fury Road, and Furiosa both got a black and white edition. What else got one recently? Justice League got a black and white edition. But here's my issue with that. And I don't know if you've noticed, I lit this differently. This is not the same lighting that I normally do. If I did the same lighting I normally do, it would look like this. It would just be the normal thing, and I just put a black and white filter over it. But everything kind of blends in, it's just gray. There's really no definition. That's my issue with modern movies. Just making their version black and white compared to original movies done in black and white back in the day that were specifically meant and lit for black and white because their lighting is different. Like this lighting looks awful. Like all I did was turn off a few lights because I want to give you separation. I want to give you something that's meant more for this lighting style. Like, I'm watching this in black and white right now on my monitor, so I can see it. It's not like I'm making this and I'm like, oh, I'll make it in black and white later in post. No, I'm lighting this to be black and white. So there are going to be no more modern movies on this list. There is like one or two modern movies on this list, but they were made for black and white. But the reason I wanted to make this video was, I think with the holiday season, it is very nostalgic to revisit these old classic movies. Like this is the season for that. And a subscriber of mine, and somebody I really respect as a YouTuber, like, he cracks me up. So Jay from Movie Mass, I don't know if you've heard of him. He cracks me up. He's like one of the only physical media YouTubers I feel like that is funny as shit. He curses, he drinks beer. You think he's just some crazy New Englander, like just talking shit, but he is smart as shit. And he made a Criterion video, recommendations. Everybody in November is making these Criterion recommendations, and I'm watching it. And there's only one movie that really kind of stood out to me. And it was this movie called The Awful Truth from Criterion. He just sent me this. Like, he was like, hey, do you own it? I was like, no, it looks really good. He just sent it to me. It was the only Criterion I got this whole month, November. So thank you, Jay, so much. Because, guys, this movie is fucking good. Like, it's really good. And it's from 1937. This is officially the oldest movie in my collection. Before that was, I think, Gone with the Wind, which is 1938. But this movie, oh my god, from the opening credits was like with the napkins and everything, had me hooked. But this is a comedy, as Jay called it, a screwball comedy. And this is a 4K restoration on Blu-ray. So this probably will get a 4K coming soon because Criterion just loves to do that. But there's a scene I knew I loved this movie, where there's a scene with an old man on a telephone.
Hello?
And his wife comes in. This is the beginning of the movie. Oh my god. His wife comes in and she's like, dinner's ready or something. And he's like on the phone. He goes, I'm on the phone.
You back after we finished eating.
Please be quiet, will you?
He's talking. You just see her stay in the background. And she's just standing there. And then she interrupts him again. And he's like, are you serious? Like, I'm on the phone. Go away.
Marriage is a beautiful
Why
thing.
don't you finish your meal? Why can't we call you back later?
Please shut your mouth.
This old man, this old couple, and I'm like, is she still standing there? And I'm like, oh my god, she's gonna say something again. And then she says something again, and he this is like a 1937 version of a nagging wife, and the husband just being like, "Bitch, if you don't go away, I will slap the shit out of you." It is so funny.
Hated too.
Your food is getting ice cold. You're always complaining about your food. How
Will
do you
you
expect me
shut
to
your big mouth? I'll eat when I get good and ready, and if you don't like it, you know what you can do. So shut up. Lucy, darling, marriage is a beautiful thing.
Just like I laughed so hard when I saw this. I know I'm not probably making sense if you haven't seen the movie, but early Cary Grant. Like I only know Cary Grant, like old Cary Grant, from To Catch a Thief. Cary Grant. Young Cary Grant, and the dialogue is really good. Like it surprised me, like because you watch a lot of these movies, especially this, like you see them dressed up, and they're a lot of these movies back in the day were like meant to be these like glamour kind of things, and they spoke in the transatlantic accent, and it was all this like very upper class kind of stuff, but they feel like they talk and they act like real people in this movie, and some of the dialogue you realize was spoken back in 1937. Like this movie's about a couple going through a divorce, and they use the word rebound in this. Like he's just a rebound. You don't go for the rebound or something. I'm like, they were using that term in 1937, like how we use it today. Like it's just like little things like that were just like, But if you've not seen this and you're into like these kind of movies, I would recommend The Awful Truth. Jay from Movie Math recommended it to me, and I'm going to pass it on and recommend it to you because this is actually good. The ending to this movie, I don't know how I feel. It gets a little too screwball for me, like they're trying too hard for something, but the first like 2/3 of this movie, like, thank you, Jay. This is really good. Thank you. But going back to Criterion, I haven't got this yet, but one of my favorites is Double Indemnity. This is probably one of my most anticipated 4K, the one that I've been wanting to get the most. And we still have like 1 or 2 days left of November till Black Friday. So I may end up pulling the trigger on this 4K at the very last minute or something on Friday. We'll see. But this one's from 1944. Really good. Like, this is the movie where most of the things you know about movies are done in this. Like, this is... Who wrote it? Billy Wilder wrote it. Billy Wilder is like... is he a couple times... He's again on this list. Billy Wilder movies, fantastic. But Double Indemnity, very, very high. Recommend me. Lolita, Stanley Kubrick. I'll be honest, not my favorite Stanley Kubrick movie. I think just the story wise, it's kind of. I think the first half of this movie is really good, and then the second half, when they like. Spoiler: if you haven't seen this movie from 1960, is it 62, 61? If you haven't seen this from 1961, like, so, dude falls in love with this teenage girl, but he ends up marrying her mom, mostly to be closer to her, and then he ends up killing the mom because she's like a nagging bitch. But after he kills the mom, the story kind of like, well, after they sleep together, and the whole last part of the film gets a little for me. But yeah, Lolita, gotta own everything Stanley Kubrick, everything. This is one of the few, I think there's a few modern movies on here, but The Lighthouse. I am a massive Robert Eggers fan. I think The Witch was, I remember being in the theater, blown away by the sound design in that movie. This was his sophomore film, like, and I'll be honest, I did not care for this the first time I saw this. This is a movie that has to grow with me every time. But the visuals are just so good. And if you watch the special features and like the film stock they used in the camera, like they really wanted it to look like how it was back then. They didn't just shoot digitally to make it look black and white. They shot on film, but they didn't just use traditional black and white film stock. Robert Eggers and the cinematographer used old film stock, like the oldest they could find on the oldest camera they could find. Like, it's really interesting how they made this movie, and it's shot in the 4:3 aspect ratio, like really good. But it's not the most mainstream Robert Eggers movie, and I will have to admit it did have to grow on me after a few viewings. Belfast. This is probably the most modern black and white movie that I have. This came out, when was it, last year or the year before? I hate when they don't say on the thing. 2001. This is a Kenneth Branagh movie, and this is one he made very personal to him. Takes place in 1960s Belfast, Ireland. It is so good, and it's so beautifully shot. Cinematography, everything. It's made for black and white. This was shot digital, but it is made for black and white. Like, you can even see right now, like, Belfast may seem kind of hard to read because it's in color. It looks great. Like, it looks like I'll show you real fast. You see the yellow right here against the black and white. Looks really good, but you go back to black and white, it's kind of hard to read or whatever. But that's why I say with black and white. Have you ever seen like behind the scenes of like old black and white stuff, like how they filmed it? Like, people would wear the most ugly colors, or sets would look really ugly because they had to use colors in certain ways to make black and white. Like, you can't use yellow in this traditionally. It wouldn't work because it would barely show up. Black and white is very particular. I want to make something in black and white, and I want to make it to where it only has to be on black and white, but that's a story for another time. But this one was shot digitally, and it looks amazing. The story, it gets me. The dance scene where they're singing if you want my, I forgot the name of the song, but it's so good. It's got the lead character is the guy from 50 Shades of Grey. I forgot his name. Don't care for those movies, but he's really good in this movie. He's so good. Going back to Billy Wilder, The Apartment. This movie, this is one of the most beautiful movies I think ever done in black and white. And I think this was one of the first, if not the first, black and white anamorphic movie. And by anamorphic, I mean the widescreen bars. Like, this was shot for that widescreen ratio, but done in black and white. Written and directed by Billy Wilder, Jack Lemmon, so good in this movie. And it's even got, I forgot his name, the guy from Fred McMurray. He was also the lead in Double Indemnity. This is from 1960. You would think this was a 50s film, but it's from 1960. It was made in the 50s, but some of the techniques they do, like even the office scene, like the way they did the behind the scenes and how they would build this large set, but they would use manipulation. Like, they would build it to look larger and have more people, but they would have like more of like smaller desks in the front and larger desks in the back. It was really interesting, like the behind the scenes of this. But Kino put out the 4K of this, and the very high recommend on The Apartment. It's so good. But probably my favorite movie in this whole stack. If you know anything about me and you watch this channel, I love 1950s. 1950s is like the 80s. For me, like, there's the 80s and then there's the 50s. So, like, I love the 50s. And I just discovered this movie, High School Confidential, like probably 2 years ago. This is an Olive Films Blu-ray. This movie is so good. And what I love about it, this is basically like the original 21 Jump Street. It's basically a guy who comes to this he's a new kid in a school. He's trying to find where all the weed heads are at. The wheelers and dealers is what they called them. And you find out he's an undercover cop and everything. It's basically like a reefer message movie. Kind of at the end, it's like a voiceover talking about reefer and all this stuff. But and it's got, what's her name? Who's the chick in it? Who's the girl in it? Mamie Van Doren. Dude, to me, she's hotter than Marilyn Monroe. Like, I just think she is. And she's a dirty she's dirty in this. But what I love about this movie is there's so much you get after you watch it and you realize what's going on. So like there's a scene where the main character who is Russell Tamblyn, he was also in West Side Story. He's staying with his aunt. Aunt played by Mamie Van Doren, and she's like hitting on him, trying to sleep with him. But you find out it's not really his aunt. You find that out like after many viewings. You have to put it together in your head. It doesn't tell you. It makes you think about it. Because you watch it now, like, why is his aunt trying to sleep with him? That's kind of weird. But it's not really his aunt. He's using her because he's a cop. Her husband is in jail for dealing or something. So to get him out, he's got to stay with her undercover so he can get into the school. And at the very end, you see her with the husband. But you kind of have to figure it out that they're not really related. But they're just playing and whatever. And she wants to sleep with them really bad. She's just a horny woman, essentially. You see her on dates and everything too. But Drew Barrymore's dad is also in this movie. Which if you've seen anything about Drew Barrymore, apparently he was kind of a deadbeat in real life or something. But Drew Barrymore comes from a long line of actors. And her dad is in this. But the one thing I love about this movie is the dialogue. The slang. This movie is 1950s slang out the ass.
Look, you know, you could be the most, but, I mean, all that old-style jive you got written up on the board is nowhere.
I'll tell you when to speak.
Look, take it from this stud, will you? I mean, that stuff is strictly for the tinners that live around the block. Like if I were to say to this kitten here, if I were to say, let's blow this joint, or let's hop in my camp and take off for the Cosba.
Will you shut up?
Okay. Okay, I'll break it off, but I just want you to know that it takes a lot out of me.
You ever watch a Guy Ritchie movie and the way they talk is just like, that is, I don't understand half of it, but it just sounds so cool. That's this movie in the 1950s. It just, I can't recommend High School Confidential enough. Like, it's absolutely one of my favorite movies ever made, and I just discovered it like 2 years ago. I think this is the last modern movie on the list, or one of the last, but Ida. Ida is a Polish film. I think it won an Oscar for like best, or it was nominated for an Oscar for best like foreign film. It is a masterpiece. It is a Polish movie set in like the late or the early 60s, I think, like 62. It's about a nun who's about to take her vows, the 18-year-old nun about to take her vows, very religious, and her aunt comes and is basically, they go on like a road trip to kind of find out what really happened to her parents, because she doesn't know her aunt. She doesn't even know she has an aunt, you know, but it's kind of to find where her parents are buried, because they were part of the whole Nazi and World War II thing, the invasion of Poland. And it's really interesting, and it's shot 4:3. It's black and white. I think it's shot digitally. It's a modern film. This was from 2013 or 2014. And this packaging, like, I know it's in black and white. It's a little hard to see. I'll go to color real fast. But like the pink with the clear case and the black and white, it looks so good. Back to black and white. Yeah, very high recommend. He also did another movie called Cold War, which I couldn't really get into. Same thing, black and white, same kind of time period, set in the 60s. Got, I think, one or two of the same actors, but Ida is the shit. Ida's the shit. No, not You've Got Mail. It's not. You've Got Mail's not in black and white. But it came with the original movie from is it 1950? What year did this come out? It was like 1950 something, but The Shop Around the Corner. Was it or maybe it was 40s? I don't know. But this is the original You've Got Mail, called The Shop Around the Corner. And it came with the Blu-ray. It's got a little thing like, oh, extra. I love when movies do that. I love it. It's got James Stewart and Margaret Sullivan. Not as, I think You've Got Mail is, to me, one of the best romantic comedies ever made. Shop Around the Corner is not as good to me, but only because it's like a time period thing, and I saw it way later in life. Like, I've been watching this since DVD, and never knew it was a remake of something until I got the Blu-ray, opened it up, and saw there was a whole other disc in here. It wasn't like it's on the disc and you got to go to the special features and it's hard to find. Like, nope, it's here. But if you're into You've Got Mail, check out Shop Around the Corner because it's the same movie. Really good. Another 1950s movie, Baby Doll. Baby Doll. This is a Tennessee Williams movie, and the sexual like undertones in this movie, like how did this movie get made back then? This movie probably got blacklisted back in the day. It's set in the South. It's about a girl who's married, but she still hasn't given it up to her husband yet until she turns like 21 or something. She says she wouldn't touch him, and he's a douchebag and only married her for, because for a dowry or something from her dad, something, but she ends up falling for a gangster in this who's played by, is it Carl? It's either no, it's Eli Walsh. And you may know him as he's a much older actor now. I think he passed away, but you'd recognize him now. But seeing a young him playing an Italian, it's so good. The dialogue and the tension between them is just it's one of these movies I watched. I'm like, how was this movie made in 1950 something? When was this? 1956. Very high recommend. Oh yeah, another modern movie, Sin City. I need to get the second one. I actually don't own A Dame to Kill For. I've been meaning to get it, but it's one I just keep pushing off because it's not as good. Like Sin City 2 is not as good, but it's got Eva Green. But Sin City, absolutely amazing. This is probably the only one on this list. One of the only movies I've seen that implemented black and white and hints of color. Which just the behind the scenes of this is absolutely amazing. Yeah, high recommend. If you're into modern black and white movies, this is from early 2000s, when it's 2005. Back when Robert was on top of his game. Another 1950s movie. Where does this? Which one's this? 1950 exactly. The original Father of the Bride with Spencer Tracy and Elizabeth Taylor. I love the new ones with Steve Martin and Martin Short. Love the movies. They make me cry every time I see them. But there's an original. It's Father of the Bride from 1950. There's even a sequel called Father's Little Dividends, which I haven't got. Both of these are on Blu-ray. But I haven't picked them up yet. But the original Father of the Bride is really good. It is really good. And a young Elizabeth Taylor just looks really beautiful. But it's one of these things where you just feel bad for the dad the whole time. Like the dad just wants to see his daughter. It's a little bit. This movie's a lot more contained than the remake. The remake shows a lot more just different locations. This one literally mostly all takes place at the house, like the whole movie. But really good. If you like Father of the Bride, give the original a try from 1950. I lied. This is the last modern movie on here. 7852 Hitchcock shower scene. This is a documentary. Now, I'm going to talk about this more in depth. I have another video coming out specifically just about this and the whole Psycho stuff, but this is a documentary that is just solely about the shower scene in Psycho, how impactful it was. The whole documentary is in black and white. And it's interviewing celebrities. It's Jamie Lee Curtis, Elijah Wood, all these celebrities talking about the shower scene. So if you're into documentaries, very high recommend, especially if you're into Psycho. But I'm gonna be talking about this later, specifically when I get into movies about Psycho that are better than Psycho. Just a teaser. But this is also an IFC Midnight and Scream Factory release, which actually comes with both Blu-ray and DVD. Right. Creature from the Black Lagoon. Love this movie. This is my favorite Universal Monster movie. I don't have them all. I have this. This is the only one I have. I got the Steelbook one. I need to get Wolfman. It's been so long since I've seen him. I grew up. This was a big part of my childhood, and Wolfman was a big part. Frankenstein was okay. Dracula, Bela Lugosi's Dracula, I never really got into that much, but I almost called him Swamp Thing. Damn. Creature from the Black Lagoon. Just the cinematography, the underwater stuff, absolutely amazing. The lead actress in this is gorgeous beyond belief. This is Jack Arnold who directed this, who also directed High School Confidential. So there's a link to that too, because these are probably two of my favorite 1950s movies done by the same director, Jack Arnold. He had an eye. I got this year when Walmart re-released the steelbooks. So because I got this one, I kind of want to get the other steelbooks for them. I didn't want to. I thought about getting that big Universal book, but because of the size, it's like huge, But I couldn't do it. But Creature from the Black Lagoon, so good. And last on this list, my favorite black and white movie of all time, Casablanca. I own this on DVD. I have multiple VHSs, and the 4K is just absolutely stunning. This movie I discovered in film school. I remember I was in film school. I was in a lighting class, and we each had to, recreate a scene from a movie for lighting. Like, it was just about the lighting, and my group did Casablanca. I actually dyed my hair black, like dyed it black, because I was playing Humphrey Bogart back in the day. But I could watch this movie every month and not get tired of it. It's so good. It's one of these movies I've seen so many times that you just put it on the background and just quote it. So good. Probably one of the greatest movies ever made. Casablanca. High recommend. Okay, I lied. Casablanca is not the last. I finished that and then I remembered there's a better movie, not a better movie, but another movie that I just discovered last year that kind of also inspired this whole video. But it's one of my absolute favorites from the 1950s, and I can't believe I almost left it off this list. Sabrina. The original Sabrina, not the one with Harrison Ford. I've not seen that one. I kind of refuse to see that one. Written and directed by Billy Wilder, who also did The Apartment and did, there's another one on this list he did that I totally forgot about off the top of my head. But I discovered this movie last Christmas. I was home for Christmas, and Christmas is always it's kind of hard for me, with family stuff and everything, and just being single. It's just one of those holidays. It's just kind of not my favorite anymore. But I was in my sister's house out of town, and I'm upstairs in the attic where I stay when I go visit, and I'm on YouTube, and I just watched this movie on YouTube, and I fell in love with it, like, so much. I think I watched it twice in one night. Ordered the Blu-ray after the first watching because I was leaving the next day to come home. And then something crazy. I was watching the Blu-ray, and it's normal. The Blu-ray is like normal, widescreen, everything. But when I watched it on YouTube, it was 4:3. And I kind of was like, I want to watch it 4:3 again. Now, I do have the VHS. I found the VHS. I've actually bought it twice. I bought it used, and then I found it brand new for $1. So I bought Sabrina twice on VHS. But I also bought this Centennial Collection DVD because this is the only, and I had to do a lot of research for this too. This is the only DVD that has the 4:3 TV version on it, which I like. This is clearly a sharper, better picture, but sometimes I like watching it in 4:3, even if it wasn't made 4:3. It's from the 1950s. When was this? 1954. You almost feel like it should be in 4:3. And it's framed to be pretty close to it too. So I like that version, and I almost wish the Blu-ray had both versions, but I kind of realized that it was made for widescreen, so that's how you should watch it. but I think the 4:3 aspect was a little nostalgic for me. Also, it was the first time I watched it on YouTube, which was a shitty quality version, but it was 4:3. So I found this. I think I overpaid. I don't know how much. I probably got this for $10, so maybe not that much. But I bought these basically the same time. Love Sabrina. My favorite Audrey Hepburn movie. Her role. I love My Fair Lady, but there's something about Sabrina that I love the story. I love the romance story, and watching it like this is probably going to be my new like Christmas movie every year, just because it really did impact me a lot last year seeing this movie for the first time when I was home for Christmas. It's not a Christmas movie by any means. It's not. It takes place in the Hamptons, like in the summer. So, but absolutely love this movie. Can't believe I almost forgot it in the stack. But that's my list of black and white movies. That's my black and white collection. I know black and white's not for everybody. I know some people, especially younger generations, may see it and be like, "Oh, that's old." But I still feel like, and I'm not even that old, but I grew up watching some black and white movies. Like I grew up watching the Universal Monster movies and stuff. Now I didn't grow up watching a lot of black and white movies, but I do specifically remember those. That's why Creature from the Black Lagoon like means so much to me. And just being a filmmaker, I love the 4:3 aspect ratio. I love that black and white movies feel like they have more texture and more depth to them when they're made for black and white. Now, I respect anybody who makes black and white movies modern and they light it and they make it for black and white. But I'm not the biggest fan of this whole let's take a modern movie and just make it black and white for creative reasons when it wasn't made that way. Now, some of y'all may feel differently, but I remember I watched the Mad Max Black and Chrome version, and I was just like, no, I like the other one better. This one's, it doesn't work because it wasn't made for black and white. Same with Justice League. Like, Justice League, Justice is Gray is not very good in black and white. It doesn't work because it's not made that way. Now, I've not seen Hush yet, but I imagine it's going to be the same. It's going to look good. It's going to be the creative black and white, but again, I'm just worried. It's not made. It's not lit that way. Nightmare Alley was one. I hated Nightmare Alley with a passion. I am not a Del Toro fan. I remember I went to go see that with my mom, and you could not get me out of the theater fast enough. It's more, I don't like Bradley Cooper. But I remember him saying he wanted that to be black and white, and he lit it to be black and white. And so when he did his transfer over to black and white, it worked better. I have not seen it, and I won't just because I don't like that movie. But that one could have been a good black and white, modern one made to black and white, but maybe it's like the rare purest moment I have is as a cinephile that I like the older traditional ones. I like the movies from 1930s and 40s and really love the 50s. 50s is absolutely one of my favorites. And finding black and white movies in the 50s is not really as easy. That was still a period where we had color and black and white, but color was a little bit more dominant. It was still 50-50, I don't have that many 40s films. I like 40s films, but because of Jay from Movie Mass, again, go check his channel out. I'm starting to really discover this black and white movies from the 30s. There's so much so that another Criterion one that I may get this month too, just because now I'm in this black and white mode. A Night to Remember, the Titanic movie from the 50s. I do want to get that from Criterion. There was another one I looked at because Jay sent me Awful Truth. It was it Love Affair? It may have been Love Affair. It was another Criterion movie that had the same actress, same director, and it looked pretty good. But what are some of your favorite black and white movies? Do you like black and white movies? Some people aren't a fan, but I don't know, especially with the season, the holiday season, I feel like it's more accepted to watch black and white movies for nostalgic reasons. When you're watching the old Christmas movies and things you grew up with, it's more accepted, you know. But I feel like it should be accepted all year round. And I do know I need more black and white movies, but watching The Awful Truth, because I watched it twice in a row. I love this movie. Um, it really got me like going back in the collection and being like, what black and white movies do I have? And I just want to make a video on that.